Hey everybody, thank you for joining me. Thank you for hitting me up on the replay and sharing. I always forget to tell people to share, but I think if you find value, you should share anyway, and whatever it is that you watch, because things that are valuable to you, I promise, are going to be valuable to someone else. So today we're going to do episode 4. Hey Tanya, episode 4 is called Follow the Leader. Now, as you know, we're doing a 30 segments topic called Stop Stalling on Your Calling, Observations of the Believer in Business. And so, as we said, episode 4 is going to be Follow the Leader. Now, you guys may know of this from being in elementary or primary school, where there is a game that you follow exactly what someone else has done before you. In fact, a variation of the game is where someone is outside of the door and the room decides who's going to be the leader, and everyone in the room follows the leader. For instance, if the person who is designated as the leader begins clapping, then everybody else is clapping. And then the person who is outside has to determine who is the leader. And so they're brought inside and they have to figure out who started everything, right? So if the leader switches, everybody needs to be watching the leader closely and switch as well, so that the person who was brought in cannot tell who was the leader. Why does this sound like business today? Why does it sound like the way that things are happening in online entrepreneurship? Why is it that we can't honestly tell who the leaders are? Because everybody is so busy following. Catch the message. Now, here's the thing. The person I'm talking to today is the one who continues to follow the leader instead of following their own voice. We all do not have the same GPS. We all do not have the same God positioning system, or whatever you want to call it, universe, light, whatever it is that is your positive spiritual guide. But we do not all have the same path to travel. We do all have ultimately the same destination. Obviously, that is death. But again, we deal with ascension or descension, however it goes out. But what we do here during the dash, between our birth and our death, it's not the same path as anyone else, no matter how similar it may look. So in this business space, in coaching and consulting, how come we can't tell who the leaders really are? We can't. Unless they had already been there in the first place, unless we catch that they moved first before everybody else began copying their moves. But here's the person I'm talking to is following these people, and they're finding that it doesn't work for them, right? They're always behind, running to catch up. And so they compare themselves. They have that disease, comparisonitis. So they look left and they look right, and they compare themselves to the people that they deem to be leaders. And then they find in that comparison that maybe they don't measure up to that person, because that person is running a different path. And we don't know how long that person has been running, more than likely, right? And so what happens is we get filled with all these negative emotions. We get filled with frustration and anger and defeat and guilt and resignation. We get filled with the things that will keep us stagnant and stuck where we are, or may even cause us to regress and walk back to where we were. We don't want that. So at some point, we have to stop looking at other people to lead us and start listening to our intuition, to our purpose and our path that is already within us. There are ways to do things, yes, absolutely. You know, when you do live streams, they should be well lit. They should have good audio. You should look fairly nice, whatever that is. Now, nice for me, guys, is a necklace or some earrings and a lip gloss. I am not beat to the gods, you know. And that actually was a point of comparison for me when I entered this space. Like, look at my hair, guys. And before this, it was a fro. And it was a fro I'd never combed. Okay? And so I would watch people with all their wigs and their lace fronts and all that kind of stuff. And I would feel intimidated because I wasn't showing up as well put together as they are or as they were. And what I didn't understand is that somebody was looking at me just show up, and they were getting their inspiration to just show up as well, you know. And so getting stuck in comparing myself, I never found my voice. And so the people I was called to lead, because we can't always follow. Okay? There are times when, yes, we do follow, but we are not called to be just followers. At some point, at some designation within our lives, we have to stop being a student and become a teacher. And, you know, you keep learning, but at some point we become the teacher. And we have people who are following us until at some point they become the teacher. That's the way it's supposed to happen. We're supposed to duplicate ourselves and at the same time lift people up so that they could take what we've taught and go further with it. Like, imagine, some of you are my age. I'm 39 years old. I am in the gap between Generation X and Generation Millennial, right? I have seen 8-tracks, records, cassette tapes, CDs, laser discs, MP3s, MP4s, and streaming. I've seen those things in my years, and each person built off the last. So at some point, we have to stop following and build further than what we've been taught, because we have our own seeds that we have to carry. And imagine if you are forever watching someone else in the game and forever following after what they do. When do you get to emerge? When does your voice get to be heard? When do you get to follow your purpose? And your purpose, by the way, is not to follow somebody else's. It really isn't. At some point, you have to become a leader. Okay? And so don't look at all these extroverts. If you're an introvert, don't look at all these extroverts and go, I wish I was loud and well liked as they were. Your people will like you. Show up as you. Show up with your voice, your stories, your understanding. Show up. You know? And so the way to do this is to learn who you are. Learn what your voice really is. Learn what your power story is, right? You don't have to do what other people are doing because they've learned their way. It's time for you to learn yours. And so I do have a sneak peek going on right now up until October 8th, because October 15th, the program launches, and then I shut it down. But there is a sneak peek going until October 8th. I have a week into the program. You can look at it and see if you can find your voice, if you can find your story. And honestly, I don't think it's a big if. I think you will get a chance to really take a deep dive into yourself if you do the work well. And it's just $5. So the bit.ly for that, the link to get there is bit.ly 5 sneak peek. And that is the number 5 with a capital S, N-E-A-K, and a capital P, E-E-K. You want to get in. I am there. You have questions, I will answer them. And then this weekend, we will have a live session inside of our group where we have a Q&A and a discussion about what you've learned through the week and what your story is. And maybe we could shape it up even more if you are there live to do so. And so it's time, guys, to stop stalling on your calling. Like, how can you live in your calling if all you do is follow? That's not how it works. That really is not how it works. You don't pick up the phone after somebody else and just listen to them talk. You at some point have to do the talking. You at some point have to answer your call. And so if you're going to be a believer in business, you got to look like it. All right? So y'all have a good night. Bye.